Shelby here. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be my August mid-month wrap-up. So I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read from the 1st of August until about August 15th, somewhere around there. So all the books in the first half of August. So let's get into all the books. I read a lot of them. I actually did pretty good. So July, I read a lot of books. I think I read the most that I've ever read in a month, but it was all audiobooks, and I felt like I was kind of going through like a reading slump in July, mostly because there was just the audiobooks that I was listening to was all like the Ruby Dixon audiobooks, and they were just really easy to listen to. Otherwise, all the rest of the books, like ebooks or physical books, I just like was not interested. I couldn't find anything that I wanted to read. Well, the first half of August actually went a little bit better. I was actually finding some that I was enjoying and like a lot of more that I was reading. So I did really well for the first half of August. Now, as I'm filming this, we're kind of in the second part of August, and now I'm kind of going back into like my slump, and I'm having trouble finding books that I'm wanting to read. But anyway, so all of these books I'm going to talk about, I feel like I read them like so long ago. So if I don't remember everything, I'm sorry. I'm going to do my best. And again, a lot of them are Ruby Dixon books, and they're all like pretty similar. So anyway, I'm going to stop rambling, and we're just going to get into all those books. So the first one that I read is I think I got these mixed up on my Goodreads. The first one I read was Kelly's Catastrophe. This is the 9th book in the Ice Home series. So I'm just continuing on from last month, reading the Ice Home series by Ruby Dixon. So if you're not sure about that series or like what it's about, it's kind of a spin-off series from her original Ice Planet Barbarian series. And again, it takes place like on the same like icy kind of planet with all these like blue aliens and these women who were taken from Earth to be slaves, and they were kind of sort of rescued on this planet. Anyway, so Callie is one of those women, and when she gets woken up, she's immediately resonates. So that's something that happens in this world. They get this like parasite that helps them survive more on this icy planet. And in getting that, this parasite thing is, I guess, able to recognize like a compatible companion to like help on the race, basically. So it's like a fated mates kind of thing. So they resonate when they find that mate, and they're meant to, you know, make babies together and whatnot. So anyway, so Callie immediately resonates to this guy named Matok. But she immediately doesn't like him because her first interaction with him isn't the greatest. He makes some comments that it's mostly just kind of misunderstanding, honestly. You find out later on, where she finds what he says to be very offensive, but he's all like, but it's truth. Like, I'm just saying, you know. Anyway, so I gave this 2.5 stars. I mostly just didn't like Callie's character. She's kind of hot-headed and jumps to conclusions. And and I also didn't like, so Matok was like interested in her and wants to meet with her since they resonated, but he can't get her to even talk to him or listen to him or whatnot. So he decides to drug her and take her away. And I don't know, I didn't really like that aspect of it either. So anyway, that's this book. And the next one is going to be Penny's Protector, which is number 10 in the Ice Home series by Ruby Dixon. This is about Penny, which I can't remember a ton about Penny. And this is about also Sabren, who is Matok's brother. And Sabren likes Penny, but they haven't resonated. So he decides to go along with his brother's plan to drug Callie, but he's going to drug Penny and take her away. And hopefully, while they're away from like camp and all the rest of the people, they're out just on their own, it can kind of like force resonance. This one goes a little bit better than it did for Callie and Matok, because she's not like as upset about getting drugged. Like, she tells him like, no, that's not a good thing to do. Like, you can't do that. But they're also like pretty good friends, so she's just like, okay, let's just kind of like hang out while we're out here. And it's kind of their story. I gave this 3 stars. It wasn't like super memorable. It wasn't my favorite. So and then I read Forbidden Fling by Kat Taylor. This is a erotic novella. Kat Taylor is actually a like student, like pen name for Katie Roberts. So if you like reading Katie Roberts stuff, you would probably like this one. This one is just like a really short, steamy novella about this girl who goes on vacation with her boyfriend, and she thinks it's a vacation just for the 2 of them, but then she comes to find out that they're actually on vacation at her father's like summer home or something, and her father's there, and then her boyfriend also invited like all of his friends too. And they're not kind of in the best relationship. It's kind of rocky, but they're still together. The sex that they have is like really mediocre, and she's not satisfied by it, but she finds her boyfriend's dad very attractive. And her boyfriend's dad also finds her attractive, and they get into some situations. This does have cheating in it, obviously, because she still is with her boyfriend when she does things. And there's an age gap because her boyfriend's dad is a lot older than she is. And it also does not have a HEA, a happily ever after kind of thing to it. But it wasn't where I wasn't like satisfied with the ending. She doesn't like end up with anybody, but I feel like at the same time she was kind of all the better for it. So I wasn't like mad that there wasn't an AGA. So I gave this 3 stars. I always feel like it's kind of hard for me to rate novellas, especially like erotic novellas, because there usually isn't like a ton of plot or character development. It's pretty much just about the steamy situation, which is kind of what this one is. So if you're looking for that, this one is a really great one. But if you're wanting more of like a story, you probably want to skip this one. Then I read Claiming Addison by Zoe Derrick. This is the first book in the 69 Bottles series. This is a rock star romance. This is about Addison works for like, I think like a PR company or something for like famous people, basically like artists and musicians, and she's a big fan of the band 69 Bottles, and their PR person they end up firing them, so she very quickly ends up getting hired on to be their PR person, and she has to like travel with them while they're on the road touring and doing shows, and she ends up like touring with them. So she's in pretty close quarters with like all the band members and their manager, and this ends up being a like menage polyamorous relationship. She ends up having a relationship with the lead singer of the band and the band manager. So this was pretty good. It was pretty steamy. I gave it 3.5 stars. And then the next one that I read is going to be Mari's Mistake, which is the 11th book in the Ice Home series by Ruby Dixon. This is about Mari and Tachai, I think is how you say his name. And they actually ended up resonating. We kind of saw they were like side characters in the first book of the Ice Home series with, I think it was Lauren. She and Lauren were together, and they got out to sea and stranded on this like island where there were other aliens on that island, and they got like separated. So Lauren's book, the first book of the Ice Home series, is her side, but then Mari also resonated to somebody else on the island. So this is about Mari's story, but this is kind of a second chance romance, because even though Mari and Tachai resonated, they never actually fulfilled resonance. And then at one point there were these like bird like creatures or something, like prehistoric kind of bird creatures that like attacked, and T'Chai was like severely wounded, like he was about to die, and they were able to like get off the island and go back to the regular like ice home kind of camp, where Veronica, who's another character in this series, is a healer, and they brought T'Chai to her to try to heal, but she was like, since you all haven't fulfilled resonance, you know, the little parasite, which should be able to help heal all of his wounds, wasn't focused on healing him, was too focused on trying to fulfill resonance with his mate. So they ended up turning all of that off, and after doing that, Mari has like it's hard to explain, like no feelings towards T'Chai, or like whenever he like touches her, she just like, she doesn't like it. Like I think she said that her brain goes like, no, wrong whenever he touches her, even though she loves him and wants to be with him. She just can't stand for him to touch her. So they've been working and trying to get the parasites and the resonance to like come back on so that they can actually become mates again and fulfill the resonance, but it's not working out the best. So this is about them trying to work through all of that and persevere and kind of see what happens with it. So I give this one 3 stars. I'm not usually a second chance romance. That's not usually my favorite trope. But I did like this one. I thought it was really good. And then I read Craving Talon by Zoe Derrick. This is the second book in the 69 Battles series. I don't remember if there's too much else that happens. It's just pretty much a continuation from the first book. Oh, they did, now like the main character Addison is kind of dealing with, she ended up going on stage with 69 Bottles at one of their like concerts or something and doing a duet randomly with the lead singer, and it kind of like exploded all over the internet, and now like the record label for 69 Bottles is like wanting to sign her and have her be like a solo kind of artist, and so she's kind of like trying to deal with all of that. She doesn't know what to do. But yeah, that's pretty much what's going on in that one. I gave it 4 stars. It was pretty good. Oh, and then the next 2 books I read for a reading vlog, which I posted like a week or so ago. So if you want to check that out, I will leave that like in the cards or like where you can kind of find it. But the 2 books that I read for that, the first one is going to be It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. I gave this 4 stars. I really like this. This is about like a socialite kind of LA girl, and she doesn't really do anything. Like all she does is go to parties and have a blast and post all kinds of pictures on social media, and she ends up getting in trouble. So her stepdad is like, you need to learn responsibility and the value of money, and he sends her to, I can't remember if it's like New England area or if it's like up the coast in like Washington, but he ends up sending her to where her mother actually grew up, and sending her to kind of run the bar that her biological father owned and like has gifted to them after he died. And in doing so, she meets this guy who is a like crab fisherman guy, captain of like the boat or something or other. And he's kind of grumpy, but he has an interest in her, and then they have a relationship. Like I said, I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. And then the other book that I read for the reading vlog that I did is going to be One Hot Italian Summer by Karina Halley. This is another one that I gave 4 stars to. This is about this girl who is an author, and she used to write like these mystery books with her friend. They co-authored together, but her friend ended up passing away. So this is about her kind of going through like a writer's block and kind of a slump, because she's supposed to write a book on her own, but she doesn't really know how to do that. She doesn't know how to be an author by herself because she's always written with somebody else. She isn't sure if she can live up to the hype because she feels like her friend was the better writer. and was also the one that supported her and helped encourage her to write. So now that her friend is gone, she's kind of like lost and doesn't know what to do. So her book agent, I think, was like, hey, I have a place in Italy. Why don't you just like go there, get out of your house, go somewhere else, and see if a change in scenery kind of helps you to write. Well, when she gets to Italy, she finds out that her agent's house she doesn't actually own. It's actually her ex-husband's house, and her agent thought that he was supposed to be on vacation, but their vacation ended up accidentally getting cut short. So he's just they're kind of suspicious at first, but he's like, okay, whatever, you can stay here for a little bit and get your writing done and whatnot. And then he also has a son too. So it ends up being their romance. They start having feelings for each other. But yeah, I thought this was really good. It was really cute, and it did have some pretty steamy scenes. So like I said, I give this 4 stars. It was really good. I enjoyed it. Then I read Raven's Return, which is the 12th book in the ISO series by Ruby Dixon. This is about Raven, who she has been lying to everybody in the camp because she thinks people will not like her if they know the truth about her past. She was actually like, I don't remember what she did. She was like, went to jail for something, like stealing maybe. And then she's also a sex worker. I think she worked at like a strip club, if I'm remembering right. And because of how everybody kind of like looked down on her for that, like on Earth, she feels like they're gonna do the same to her here on Iceholm. So she lies to everybody and doesn't tell anybody like who she really is. But she ends up getting like kidnapped by this other alien who is part of the Outcast clan. So they have like all these new like aliens on this this area, and they're all separated into different clans based on different genetics. So anybody that's born, if you didn't look like your parents, you looked like one of the other clans, you got separated from them and put into that other like clan area. So there's like the 4-armed aliens, there's longhorn aliens, and then there's I think they call it the Shadow Cat clan, which is basically they just have a little bit more hair than the other ones. And then if you don't have any of those characteristics, you are outcast, like you're just whatever. So she gets kidnapped by them, and Udron is another alien that he is kind of friends with Raven, and he likes her and wants to resonate to her. So he goes and like rescues her and brings her back. That's really all I remember. I just remember that it was their romance and it was cute, and I gave it 3 stars. The rest of what I remember from that. So that's gonna be the rest of the books that I read for Iceholm. There are more. I think there's like 2 more that have been published, but they're not on audiobook yet. So I may wait to read them until they're on audiobook. But that's gonna be it for the Iceholm. The next one that I read is Hat Trick by Coralie June and Carrie Gray. I originally wasn't super interested in reading this one because I don't know, I just felt like the blurb about it didn't really describe enough about like what it was about. I was just like very confused by it. But then I follow Coralie June on, I think I follow her on Facebook, or I'm part of like her like group or something, and she posted like a little snippet of one of the pages from this book, and it was like, I was laughing out loud. It was like hilarious. So I was like, okay, I need to read this immediately and try to figure out what this book is about. So this is about this girl who, I can't remember what her job is. Like she's basically like an organizer kind of like person or something, and she works for a hockey team that her boyfriend is on, but then she catches her boyfriend cheating on her in a like post, like he cheated on her with 3 girls at the same time, and one of those girls posted their video that they made of this scene to like a porn site, and that's how she found out about it. So she's like miserable, and she's like, okay, I can't work for this company anymore because he's going to be there. So she decides she's going to this like conference thing for like hockey or something, and she decides that she's going to try to find a different job somewhere else. But then she's also kind of like still upset over her ex. And she ends up running into these 3 hockey players at this conference. One of them she ends up having a one-night stand with. Another one she gets friendly with, but doesn't end up doing anything with. And then there's another one that she almost has a one-night stand with, but she, in the middle of things, she decides like, no, we're not doing that. But all of those hockey players end up playing for the same team that she actually gets hired to do stuff with. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure what her job is. Like I said, she basically like organizes the team and makes sure everybody goes where they're supposed to be. Like I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, so that kind of causes some drama because the one guy that she had a one-night stand with, they ended up just becoming like friends. The other guy that was friendly wants to become more with her, and she thinks that he's really nice and might be a good like relationship material, but he's very clingy, and he goes from like 0 to 60 like super fast. Like he starts talking about like their kids, and she's just kind of like, whoa, I'm like nowhere near where you're at, buddy. And then the third one that she almost had a one-night stand with, they end up having like an enemies to lovers end up thing happening because he tries to do anything that he can to sabotage her and her job because he's upset that his brother didn't get the job. But anyway, I give this 4 stars. I might bump it up to 4.5 stars. I was debating putting it at 5 stars because I really enjoyed this one, but there are certain things that I just didn't care for about this book. The biggest thing being her new boss at this new like hockey, whatever, the head coach or owner, I don't remember what he is, but I did not like him because he is a misogynistic jerk, and I thought he was absolutely terrible. So I didn't like that. That was the biggest thing that I didn't like. Otherwise, I really enjoyed this one. It was absolutely hilarious, and it was very steamy as well. So I would recommend this to like everybody. Like everybody should go read this one because it like just is one of those books that just surprised me because like I said, I wasn't originally interested in reading this book, but it turned out to be really, really good, and I loved it. Then the next one that I read is going to be Sweet Thing by J.A. Huss. I was just kind of in a mood to try to read like some age gap romance, and I had heard, I think Jen maybe from the Book Refuge is where I got this book from. Like I think she might have like recommended it in one of her videos. This is about this guy, and he's like this businessman kind of guy, and he ends up renting a space in this like artist creative people kind of like co-op building where like it's this building that a bunch of anybody can rent a space at this place to do like creative type things, and while he's there he ends up meeting this girl that he's really interested in, and he says off the bat that he has a thing for women who are a lot younger than him, and he is immediately interested in this girl, but then he finds out that she's still in high school, that when they first meet he's like wants to take her on a date, is like really into, but then she tells him that she's only 17, and he's like, okay. So he stops what he's doing and like walks out, and he's like, I'll be back when you turn 18. So then once she turns 18, then they start dating again. I gave this like 2.5 stars. I didn't think this was that great. I normally really like age gaps, especially if it's really taboo like that, but like this one just like grossed me out. And then also I didn't really care for the heroine. because she was so naive and really acted like she was like 15 or 16. And I just like, that just turned me off, that like he was like so into her. So I don't know, I just didn't care for that one. It was ew. Okay, now we're gonna get back into some more Ruby Dixon, because since the next ones of the Ice Home series weren't on audiobook form, I just went to another series from Ruby Dixon that is on audiobook form. So I read the Corsairs series. So the first one is gonna be the Corsairs Captive. This is a 4-book series, and this is about pirates. This is about these alien pirates, and they're the same kind of race of alien as the blue aliens from the Ice Home and Ice Planet Barbarian series. But anyway, so they're pirates, and they're going to this job or something, and the captain of the ship ends up, the person that he's like bargaining with and trying to steal things from them, ends up having a human slave. And his race of people, they don't have that parasite like they do on the Ice Planet Barbarian series or the Ice Home series, but his race of people, he had said that when they find their mate, they will immediately know it when they see them. And so he feels that way towards this human slave. So he ends up like taking her, rescuing her, something like that, and taking her on board the ship, and it's kind of their romance. So I give this 3 stars. It was really cute. Then the next one is gonna be the second book in the Corsairs series, in the Corsairs Bed, and I can't remember, it's one of the other people on the ship. I don't remember which one it was, but they're also at like a port or something, and he sees this like slave person selling his slaves, and one of the slaves is a human female, a human woman, and she is treated absolutely terribly. Like, she looks like she's about to die, so he buys her to try to like save her. And then it's kind of their romance. So this is another 3-star book. It was really cute. Then I read Come to Daddy by Brianna Hale. This is the first book in the Love Don't Cost a Thing like duet series or something or other. And this features a like age gap romance. This also features like sex worker. So this is about this girl who, her parents died, but they were in debt to this like really evil bad guy business person, and he is threatening her life, because he's like, hey, your parents owed me all this money. You're the only one left, so now it falls on you to pay off this debt that they owed to me. And she's like in college, and she's like, it's like the debt is like 500,000 million, like an astronomical amount. And she's like, there's no way that I'm gonna be able to pay this off. And he's like, well, you can come work for me in my strip club and you'll be able to pay it off within like the next 10 years. And she's like, that's like the biggest chunk of my life, and she doesn't want to do that. So then she hears about the like sugar baby, sugar daddy kind of business. So she decides to go that route and become a sugar baby to a daddy that will pay her for like dates, and honestly most likely pay her to have sex with him. And she ends up becoming a sugar baby for the brother of the like evil guy. He like knows what's going on, and that his brother is threatening her, and he like feels sorry for her and wants to kind of help her. So he decides to become his daddy, or her daddy, and give her money that then she will give to his brother so that his brother doesn't try to kill her. And in doing so, they end up having like a romance between them. So I give this 4 stars. I was like very pleasantly surprised by this one. I've read a few Brianna Hale in the past, and they weren't like bad books by any means, but they weren't like anything that like wowed me. Like most of her books that I've read in the past have been more like middle of the road, like 3-star kind of books. But this one was just I thought the writing was like so much better than, and the plot too was so much better than any of her other books that I read, and it was just one that like really stuck with me and I really enjoyed it. So I gave this one 4 stars. Then the next 2 are just going to be the rest of the Corsairs series. So we have Enticed by the Corsair, which is the 3rd one in this series. Trying to remember. Oh, they are on a mission at this, trying to take loot or whatnot from this rival alien, and they end up going into this like cargo area, and it's like deplorable in there. It smells so bad. They have tons of slaves that there's like just body parts everywhere and like dead people, because they basically were just torturing all these slaves. And they end up finding one woman who is still alive, and one of the other members of the team ends up like feeling like that she is his mate, so they rescue her. I gave this 3 stars. I might pump this up to like 3.5 stars. This one was like really good, but it was hard to read it sometimes just because of the heroine's like past abuse. So she is blind. The bad aliens ended up, as punishment for her not obeying them, ended up taking her eyes, like actually like ripping out her eyeballs. And then she also has a lot of other injuries and whatnot because of how she was abused. So and then she's always like, I will obey, I won't do anything, because she is still like, it's hard for her to get out of that mindset that they're not going to hurt her, because she's like, hey, this could just be a trick. So it was hard to read it sometimes. So just kind of like trigger warnings for all of that, like the abuse and past trauma and whatnot. But this one was really good and I did enjoy it. And then the last one in the Corsairs series is going to be Deceiving the Corsair. And this, I remember, is about the navigator of the ship and the navigator of another pirate ship. And they end up like talking to each other over like comms or something. And they already kind of have a relationship over like just talking to each other. And he thinks that she is the same kind of race as her, but she is actually a human. And the other pirate ship that she's on, the men of that pirate ship, she thinks of them as her big brothers. They rescued her because she was taken to be a slave when she was like 11 or 12, like she was really young. And they rescued her and just kind of like raised her on this ship. So she thinks of them as her older brothers. So she doesn't want him to know who she is because he's well kind of been like, yeah, humans are weird, I'm not sure about them. But then they do end up meeting and they have a romance and it's really cute. And I do kind of want to read, I think she's got this other series that is related to this one, like as a spin-off of this one, which is about her brothers and like their romance, I'm pretty sure. But that one is like really new and I know it's not on audiobook yet, so I'll probably wait until all of those books get onto audio so that I can read those. And then the last 2 books that I read in the first half of August are another couple of Ruby Dixon books. Since I finished all the other series books that are on audiobook format, I decided to go back and start finishing the Fireblood Dragon series that she has. So this is another series of hers. I've already read prior to this like the first, I think 3? Yeah, the first 3 books in this series. And this series is basically a Earth, like America, but in a like post-apocalyptic kind of setting where there ended up being some sort of like rift that happens and these dragons just come onto Earth and they start destroying everything, and so there's not much of humanity left. All these people, they either live out on their own as like nomads or they live in the remnants of like major cities, and they're called like fort cities, where they try to protect themselves as best as they can against the dragons that are attacking. So in the first few books of this series, you come to find out that these dragons are actually an alien race. They're called Draconi, where they have two forms. They can change into dragon form, which they call their battle form, or they can change into a more like humanoid type form. So that's kind of what the series is about. So I just kind of resumed where I left off in the series. So I got started back on the 4th book in the series, Fire and His Fury. This is about Amy, who is the sister of I think the main heroine character from the 1st book, if I'm remembering correctly. And she is seen as really fragile because in like the chaos of when the rift happened, I'm pretty sure that's when it happened, her leg got broken, but because now there's no like medical care, it didn't get healed properly. So she walks with a limp, and she can't walk for very long before her leg like really hurts her, and she has to like sit down and rest. And her sister is like very like terrified that since she is not mated, that the dragons are going to smell her, and that there's going to be a dragon that's going to come along and take her and try to make her her mate. So her sister kind of locks her away. She's almost kind of like Rapunzel in a tower being locked away to keep her safe or whatnot. But Amy doesn't really want that. She really wants to have some adventure, and she really wants to find a dragon mate because she sees her older sister and his mate, or her mate, and they're so loving toward each other and they have such a good relationship, and she just really wants that. So she ends up sneaking out and meeting a dragon, and that dragon ends up becoming her mate. So this is 3 stars. I really like this one. And then the next one is going to be the 5th book in the Fire Blood Dragon series. It's going to be Fire and His Spirit. This one kind of leaves off where the former book ended. They, Amy and her mate end up finding this fort that they kind of take over. Like Amy ends up becoming the leader of that fort because the former leader feels like she wasn't really doing a good job and doesn't want to be the leader anyway. She was just kind of forced to become a leader because nobody else wanted the job. So this is about her. There is a dragon that's been kind of like around their fort, and Amy's like pretty sure it's because that he smells his mate inside the fort. So the main character of this one, her name is Gwen. Her and her friend go out to try to find the dragon because her friend thinks it's her that is mated to this dragon, but it turns out it's actually the dragon wants Gwen. I ended up giving this one 2.5 stars, mostly because I didn't really care for the heroine main character, just because she like was constantly doubting herself, and she made things harder for herself and the dragon that she is supposed to be mated to, because she feels like she like screws everything up and makes everything terrible. She's just really constantly like really down on herself, and she feels like if she does mate to this dragon guy, that she will like ruin his life and everything will be like terrible for him. So I just didn't care for like her character aspect and her like thinking. It just really brought me down, and I don't know, like I said, I didn't care for it. So there we go. So those are all the books that I read in the first half of August. So stay tuned for, and at the end of August, I'll do my end of August wrap up, where I continue on reading the Fire Blood Dragon series and just kind of see what other books that I read. So I hope you all enjoyed this video, this very extra long video. All of these videos, these wrap-ups, I feel like are like my longest videos, and they take forever because at the end of them, I feel like my throat and my voice are like so sore from talking for so long, and then they take forever to edit too because they're so long. But anyway, so if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button so I know that you are enjoying these videos. And if you want to see more videos from me, more future videos and whatnot that I plan on putting out, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye, guys.